George Harrison's serene presence often masked the internal struggles that simmered throughout his time in the Beatles. Joining as the youngest member, he admired John Lennon and Paul McCartney's brilliance, but quickly felt overshadowed by their dominant songwriting partnership. While initially content to follow their lead, George's creative contributions were often sidelined. Paul's perfectionism in the studio left him feeling stifled, and over time, quiet frustration grew into a deep, personal resentment that he rarely voiced publicly. Creative struggles and the breaking point. By the late 1960s, Harrison's patience wore thin. Sessions for the White Album and Let It Be highlighted the growing friction between him and McCartney. Paul's controlling tendencies clashed with George's desire for artistic freedom. During one tense recording, George snapped quietly but pointedly, "I'll play whatever you want, or I won't play at all." The statement symbolized years of being overlooked. His frustration culminated in a brief walkout in January 1969, signaling that his creative limits had been tested. Returning to the band, he demanded autonomy, though the emotional scars lingered. Solo triumphs and lingering bitterness. When the Beatles officially disbanded in 1970, George's quiet resentment toward Paul persisted. His solo masterpiece, All Things Must Pass, was both catharsis and defiance. Songs like Wah Wah subtly criticized Paul's domineering ways, while tracks such as Sue Me, Sue You Blues addressed the bitterness of legal battles and McCartney's move to dissolve their business partnership. The album showcased Harrison's songwriting genius, a voice that had often been muted during his years in the band. Complex bonds with Lennon-George's complicated feelings extended to John Lennon. Early admiration shifted to quiet disappointment as John became more distant and cynical, especially after meeting Yoko Ono. Lennon mocked George's spiritual explorations, leaving wounds that lingered. When Lennon was murdered in 1980, George mourned through the poignant song All Those Years Ago, balancing tribute with the unspoken pain of feeling abandoned. Though time softened some of the hurt, certain emotional gaps remained unbridged. Fleeting reunions and reflection. In the 1990s, George, Paul, and Ringo reunited for the Beatles anthology. To fans, it appeared as reconciliation, but old tensions quietly resurfaced. George noticed Paul's persistent controlling tendencies and joked, "It was like going back to school." Still, they managed to work together professionally, putting legacy over personal grievance. During George's final illness, Paul visited him, signaling a subtle, unspoken reconciliation built on respect rather than full emotional closure. Legacy of music, spirit, and silent forgiveness. George Harrison passed away in November 2001, leaving behind a legacy defined by spiritual depth, integrity, and timeless music. His final words, "Love one another," reflected a lifelong pursuit of inner peace, transcending the unresolved tensions of his past. While the bond with Paul may never have been fully mended verbally, their shared history, music, and mutual respect offered quiet reconciliation. George's artistry, humility, and pursuit of truth beyond fame remain enduring reminders of the Beatle who sought meaning and serenity in every note he played.